This is Focal Point with Brian Fisher on American Family Radio.
Howdy, and welcome to this broadcast, brand new broadcast of Focal Point on American Family Radio. Brian Fisher is my name, congenial, convivial, amiable, and effervescent.
As always.
Got Jeff and Rob in the house. Our apologies for the little technical difficulties we had in that first segment, but we are back online. Good to have you in the conversation today. Let's see where we want to start here.
Yeah, I'll put you in a good mood. You want to start with the Reed Report?
Yeah, sure. Let's hit it.
Okay, this is great news for golfers out there. They just did a study that nearly 6,000 people, and they found that if you golf at least once a month, it increases your chance of living almost a decade later.
Well, there you go.
They said, walking, exercise, jogging, working out can be good, but golf, because it's controlled pace, it's social, you're having fun with friends, and its competitive nature is really good for your health and living longer. So
I knew that. So I'm committed to my personal health. I'm going to play as much golf as I need to play to be healthy and extend my lifespan.
I can see I'm going to have to take the game back up.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to get more committed to health, Rob. That's a concern we've had with you from the very beginning. Anyway, that's good news. Update on the religious front. As you're aware, the Roman Catholic Church, since about 1179, has banned priests from getting married. They have to be celibate. This was not always the case in the Roman Catholic Church. And remember, the Roman Catholic Church considers Peter to be the first pope. We don't use that term, but they believe he was the first pope. And we know from what the Bible tells us that Peter was married. Remember, Jesus spoke in the synagogue. They invited him to come over to Peter's house because his mother-in-law was sick with the fever. So we know that the first pope, to use their term, was married. And Paul tells us later in 1 Corinthians that Peter traveled in ministry with his wife. So there's nothing biblical about priests having to be celibate. That's part of tradition that crept into this part of Christendom, and they're having a tough time getting priests to serve in the Amazon part of the world, South America, so they were appealing to the Pope to relax that rule so they could get priests that were married. They would have no trouble. And that's the reason they're having trouble filling their ranks of priests, is priests, like most ordinary men, they want to get married and they want to have families. That's what they want. They'd love to be able to serve in spiritual leadership, but not at the cost of giving up families and children and all that kind of a thing. And this, by the way, is what opened the door toward the incredible pedophilia scandal in the Roman Catholic Church. Men are sexual beings. That sexual energy's got to go somewhere. What happened when they stopped taking, when they couldn't find enough ordinary, normally sexually oriented males to fill the priesthood, they started allowing homosexuals to come in to the priesthood. There's a clear connection between homosexuality and pedophilia, and then the rest, as they say, is history. All right, well, let's see what else we have got here. Let's just jump right into some stuff about the election, the New Hampshire primary last night. As you're aware, Bernie Sanders won, which is creating a tremendous amount of consternation in the Democratic Party. Edged out Pete Buttigieg to win. Amy Klobuchar, this is the woman that eats salad with a comb. She's now third in line to be the Democratic nominee for the presidency. Now, Bernie is an out-and-out socialist, and he's running into some trouble because of that. Gallup says the American people do not want to vote for a socialist. They're not down with socialism. In fact, one of the problems that Bernie's going to have running into Nevada is the Culinary Workers Association. It's got 60,000 members, one of the most powerful unions in Las Vegas, and they are now trying to sandbag Bernie Sanders because they went on strike in 1991 to get the premier health care package in the country. They got the best health care package of any union in the country. They're not about to let Bernie Sanders come in and take that away from them by dumping them in this Medicare for All program. So they're getting the word out. 60,000 flyers going out. Don't vote for Bernie Sanders in the Nevada caucus because he will take away your health care. And the Culinary Union, if you remember, go back to 2010, Sharon Angle was running against Harry Reid as the Tea Party candidate to unseat him as the longstanding senator, Democrat senator from Nevada. And he was losing on election day. Early returns mid-afternoon on Tuesday, he was behind. Sharon Angle was winning. So what happened is Harry Reid called the head of this union, the Culinary Workers Union, and said, you got to turn out the troops. So they gave people time off. They gave them breaks. They told them, you get your fanny down to the local polling place and you vote for Harry Reid. And they did. And Sharon Angle lost that primary. Now, Bernie is aware that socialism is a non-starter for many Americans. And so he's trying even to convince people that he is not talking about the government taking over everybody's health care. That's exactly what he's talking about. But he knows that sounds bad, so he wants to do it, but call it something else, something other than the government takeover of healthcare. Now, here's Margaret Brennan. She's on CBS. She's interviewing Bernie Sanders. This is clip 1. And listen to her try to convince Margaret Brennan, no, this isn't socialism. This is an expansion. This is just a minor expansion, like you'd add a wing onto your house. That's all this is. So listen to their give and take. Clip 1.
Right, but you're advocating for the empowerment of the U.S. government to take over the entire health care system. This just optically looks like the party can't run its own caucus.
Margaret, that's not a true statement. I'm not advocating for the United States government to take over the health care system. What I am advocating for is an expansion of Medicare. Medicare exists.
Right.
I want to expand it over a 4-year period.
Which would be administered by the U.S. government. And
Precisely, just as Medicare is right now. But it's not a takeover. People will still go to the same doctor. They'll go to the same hospital. We will substantially lower the cost of prescription drugs. Cost per person will go down.
Right,
People will be paying less for it. But it's not a takeover.
The nub of the criticism, though, is that this is a question of competency. And straight out of the gate, how do you reassure the public that the party whose ticket you are running on can do this and do this successfully in the states ahead? Nevada is already saying when it comes to their caucuses, they're short of volunteers. Our campaign reporter says they're short 1,000 caucus chairs, and they might have to even hold 2 caucuses at once. This doesn't look efficient.
Well, all right, that may well be the case, but let's get back to the United States government. I'm not the chair of the Nevada Democratic Party.
And that may be fortunate for the Democratic Party in the state of Nevada. And, this is really no different than Barack Obama's plan to reform the healthcare delivery system. Obamacare is basically the government takeover of healthcare. And it's kind of a form of fascism, really, rather than pure socialism. In socialism, the government just takes control of everything. In fascism, they let you keep your business. They just tell you how to run it. You got to run it their way. So Obamacare technically was more fascism than socialism. Yeah, you can keep your hospital, you can keep whatever, but we're going to tell you how everything has to be. And they got problems in Nevada. Remember the problems they had in Iowa? They couldn't even get a head count. They still don't know to this day who actually won that thing. Nevada's got the same problem, completely untested technology. They're handing everybody iPads. These folks are going to get the iPads on the day of the caucus. They're not going to have any opportunity to get familiar with their iPad, to get training. Nevada's got early voting. How is that going to work with people on these iPads that they have no idea how to use? So we're setting up for another catastrophe in the state of Nevada. All right, now, again, a lot of angst in the Democratic Party about Bernie Sanders taking over the Democratic Party. Here's Van Jones, card-carrying leftist. This guy is an uber regressive. And he's basically saying here, look, Bernie Sanders, like Donald Trump has taken over the Republican Party, the GOP, everybody agrees with it, no contest here. The GOP is Donald Trump's party. That's his party. He's running it. He's in charge of it. He's the head of it. Van Jones is saying the same thing about the Democratic Party. He's taking it over. Clip 2. Let's listen.
This guy is on the march. I think you're going to see the establishment freak out and try to stop him. But tonight, you have to give him credit. It is very, very difficult to pull off what he's pulled off. He's never actually been a part of this party, but he's transformed the party without joining it. And now the voters are coming with him.
It's weird. This guy's not even a Democrat. Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat. He caucused with the Democrats, but he never identified with them until he wanted to be president in 2016. And so for convenience, he called himself a Democrat, labeled himself a Democrat, might have even signed up to be a member of the Democratic Party, but he never had been before. And he's a Democrat in name only. He's a dino. That's what he is. And so Bernie Sanders is not even a member of the Democratic Party, but he's taken it over. And the party poobahs, they are like freaking out. So there's a lot of, you have no idea, ladies and gentlemen, the level of panic that's settling in with the Democratic Party. They know that Bernie Sanders cannot win a national election. The American people are not ready for an out-and-out socialist. And besides, one of the campaign issues that Trump will use is, look, this whole business about lower costs and keeping your doctor, we've heard all that before. We heard that from Barack Obama. How did that work out for you? Didn't work out at all. So they know that this is a loser for the American people, no matter what Van Jones says. Now, here is Katie Tur, clip number 3. This is interesting. She's up in New Hampshire, and they're trying to find voters. It's kind of man on the street. So they're shanghaiing these people that are outside the place where you vote. And it's, we got a freshman here, fresh meat. Let's interview this voter. And I'm sure we'll find how enthusiastic he is for Bernie Sanders. Clip 3.
But I want to talk to, we have a voter out here. Sir, you were watching, so you're going to be on television now. Can you tell us who you voted for?
Donald John Trump.
You voted for Donald John Trump.
Yeah.
Look at that. Bernie Sanders is not appealing to you?
The whole ideology would be destructive to the country. It's anti-growth. It's anti-family. It's anti-American. And as a Roman Catholic, it's anti-life.
Sir, thank you so much for telling us who you voted for. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We got to move on now. Sorry, we don't have more time. We'd love to hear more of what you've got on your mind. So they ought to hire that guy. Trump ought to hire that guy to appear in commercials for the Trump campaign. So Katie Tur got completely taken to school by this guy, whoever he is. He is now my newest hero. And he was ready. He was ready to describe exactly the problem. The whole ideology is destructive to the country. It's anti-growth. We're not going to see any economic growth like we have under Trump. It's anti-family. The family's in decay. It's falling apart. This is going to make it worse. It's anti-American. Nothing patriotic about this. Nothing America first about the Sanders agenda. And it's anti-life. It's pro-abortion, and that's not where I'm at as a Roman Catholic. So good for the unidentified man. That's how he's labeled in my transcript. The unidentified man. Good for him. Now, the Democrats have another problem, and that is with Bloomberg. We talked about this briefly yesterday, but he's getting a lot of heat for the stop and frisk policy that he managed, that he oversaw, that he supervised, that he championed in New York City. Even Donald Trump called him a racist for running that policy, and then immediately had to take it down because it's completely wrong. And I want to describe very briefly, before we get into some Bloomberg clips, describe very briefly for you what this stop and frisk policy was. I support it. I supported it when Rudy Giuliani did it. I supported it when Michael Bloomberg did it. It's a great policy. Now, what happened in New York, of course, they had crime off the charts, out of control. And they discovered that crime was more frequent in certain neighborhoods than others. So they got a map out of New York City, of the whole city, and let's get our crime reports now. They don't know anything about demographics. All they know is where crime is. They get the crime statistics. They put them up on this big map. They put stick pins in the neighborhoods where crime is out of control. And they said, okay, that's the place in the city where we need to ramp up the police presence. We're going to send the police in there, and we're going to give them the authority that anybody acts suspiciously. It's not racial profiling. They got to act suspiciously. We're not just going to randomly brace people on the street, but somebody looks and the way they're acting arouses suspicion. You have the authority to brace them. You can stop them, and you can frisk them for weapons. And you know what it did? It reduced the crime rate in these neighborhoods. Now, it turned out that most of the neighborhoods where this kind of crime was out of control were minority neighborhoods. Now, let me ask you the question. Who appreciated stop and frisk? Who were the major beneficiaries of stop and frisk? It was minorities. Minorities that were tired of crime in their neighborhoods, minorities that were tired of having their convenience stores ripped off, minorities that were tired of having their restaurants ripped off for the cash in the drawer, and they were the ones that benefited from this. So this was the most pro-minority thing that Michael Bloomberg could have done. And, of course, he was doing that. He was a Republican for a while. So anyway, I'm a big supporter of stop and frisk. They went away from that. Some court told them you couldn't do it. And so now those neighborhoods no longer have the kind of police protection that they once did. All right, let's go to clip number 4. Here's Joy Ann Reid. She thinks that Michael Bloomberg is the ticket, and here's why. Let's listen.
Something I pick up anecdotally is you want the guy that's going to fight high and low.
Yeah.
I mean, there is something, and this is a compliment, not an insult to Democrats. They follow the rules.
Absolutely.
They follow the rules. And with Trump, you can't beat him by following the rules because he cheats at everything. He asked Ukraine to help him. I mean, he cheats at everything. And there is a sense with Bloomberg, not that he'll break any rules, but that he'll go high and he'll go low. He talked about, porn and a cheeseburger and a putter being in his brain. That was our friend Tim O'Brien, too. And you cannot beat Trump unless you hit him where it hurts.
And the bottom line is, number one, you can't beat showbiz without showbiz. And Democrats don't understand showbiz, even though all of showbiz is on their side in Hollywood, but they don't understand showbiz. And the other reality is, if you want a Democrat to win, they have to know how to fight like a Republican.
That's right.
He's a Republican. He used to be anyway.
So they got to fight like a Republican. Let's squeeze in clip 5. Joe Scarborough talking about Bloomberg.
Right now, for a lot of Democrats, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people. Just like Trump didn't make sense to a lot of people for Republicans. But right now, it looks like Mike Bloomberg. Oh, look, there's a guy that knows how to punch Trump in the face, and he drives him crazy.
All right, Joe Scarborough saying we got to get Bloomberg because he's a fighter. He'll punch Trump in the face. Be right back.
Here's Twyla Brace with today's Health Freedom Minute.
Remember when the practice of medicine seemed more like a mission? It felt like a place where you were cared for and listened to, where your questions were answered. It wasn't rushed.
Okay.
Those doctors sometimes came to the clinic on the weekend if you needed something or even went to your home. I'm pleased to tell you that kind of physician is reemerging slowly out of the rubble of managed care and 5-minute visits and intrusive questionnaires and prices that cost way too much for way too little time. Dr. David Usher in Hudson, Wisconsin says, if doctors aren't paying attention to the financial well-being of the patient, then they're not treating the whole patient. He recently opened a new direct pay family medicine practice called Reform Medicine. Find similar practices at jointhewedge.com. Jointhewedge.com.
Help us secure health freedom for all. Visit cchfreedom.org. That's cchfreedom.org.
All right.
AFR's own J.J. Jasper is a morning on-air personality, author, comedian, Christian, and family man. J.J.'s also a keynote speaker at banquets, men's ministry events, pregnancy center fundraisers, and more. Here's what others are saying.
JJ helped us set a record for the most funds raised at our banquet. This banquet was our best banquet ever, thanks to JJ Jasper.
Information on JJ's availability to speak at your event is at jjjasper.com.
American Family Radio newscasts are now available as a podcast.
I'm Rusty Pugh. I'm Steve Jordahl.
Didn't catch the full story? Listen to the podcast.
I'm Chris Woodward.
I'm Chad Groening.
Didn't have the radio on at the top of the hour? Listen to the podcast.
I'm Charlie Bunch.
And I'm Fred Jackson.
Get accurate news from a Christian perspective whenever you want it with the American Family News podcast. You can also sign up for our daily news brief. Visit onenewsnow.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My story begins with debt, a lot of debt, credit card debt, and I heard a commercial for Trinity. I gave them a call.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813.
When I first called, I was a little embarrassed and kind of ashamed, and I looked at the numbers and I saw how quickly that astronomical debt that was in my life would go away.
Trinity will consolidate your accounts into one easy-to-manage monthly payment, reduce your interest, and possibly improve your credit score.
Okay.
You'll save thousands.
What I would tell other people, please pick up the phone and call Trinity. Just let them put together a program and see how affordable and easy it is to pay off your debt.
Call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813. That's 1-800-788-1813.
American Family Radio. You're listening to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Howdy, and welcome back to Focal Point, American Family Radio, the home of the fastest 60 minutes in American media. Buckle up. We are hitting the stretch run, heading for the checkered flag. Want to welcome someone as a special guest on our decision-maker line. His name is Murray Douglas. He's with the ministry called Friendships, and we've interviewed people from the Friendships ministry frequently on this program. They're doing great work everywhere they go in the world. Last time we talked to a representative from Friendships, they were running a camp on the border with Syria, on the Golan Heights, and they were ministering to children who would come who needed shelter, that needed clothing, needed food, and all that kind of thing. Well, now we've got some late-breaking developments or some changes we want to make you aware of about the Ministry of Friendships in the Middle East. So, Murray, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm glad to be here.
Now, last time, like I mentioned, last time we talked to somebody from Friendships, you guys had this camp in the Golan Heights, in that part of the Middle East. Now, what's happened since then? Where are you set up now?
We are set up in the Gaza Strip. We had to close down the Syrian camp just because of the conflict that was happening there. And in the process of getting ready to open an even bigger one in Gaza.
So this camp is actually a larger camp than the one that you were running in Syria.
Yes, sir. It's about 10 times the size.
10 times.
Wow.
So how are you
Yes,
going
sir.
to make use of the extra space?
We have it pretty full with everything you can imagine.
Now, how's it going? How long has this new camp been open?
We're still in the construction phase. We're hoping to be able to open it in the next couple of months. And it's a very exciting project where it's a miracle that it's even been able to come about.
And Murray, tell us, who are you trying to minister to here? The people that you're looking to serve, who are they? Describe them for us.
They are the people of Gaza. It is a medical camp. Gaza has a lot of serious medical or lack of medical services. So we're going in and helping to provide with some of the areas where they're lacking. But we're also hoping to be able to minister to a lot of the children that have various mental disabilities. They have a very high number of autistic, Down syndrome children as well.
Let me ask you this question, Murray, and then I'm going to ask you to tell us how we can get more information. Now, you're there for Friendships. You guys were there in the name of Jesus Christ. You're there because of your relationship with Jesus Christ. When children come to this hospital that you're now getting ready to open in Gaza, are you going to ask them about their religious background? Is the services you provide, are those services going to be restricted in any way or confined to those who have a certain set of religious commitments and beliefs?
No, we are open to anybody that comes in the front gate, regardless of their religious belief. And we're we've found the best way to help these people is to show them the fruit of the Spirit.
Hey, amen to that. Well, Murray, tell us how folks that are interested in what you're doing, where can they go to get more information about what you're doing? There may be some people who would like to contribute to the work you're doing to build out this camp 10 times the size of the one in Syria. Tell us where they can go to get more information.
Yeah, all of our information right now is on our website, which is www.friendships.org.
Okay, is that friendship singular or ships plural?
Ships plural.
Ships plural. So friendships.
That's correct.
Friendships.com, friendships.org.
Friendships.org.
Okay. All right, you get all the information you need by going to friendships.org and find out what Murray and his merry band of Christ servants are up to over there in Gaza. All right, any last word? Any last word for us, Murray?
Yeah, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my merry band, if you don't mind.
Don't mind.
My team is made up mainly of 18 to 25-year-olds. We call them the Seahawks. And we would love anybody that just that has that sense of adventure with Jesus to check us out on that same website. We're looking at starting a new class in August. And they will be sent to the Middle East and spend a lot of time actually studying the Word of God and the places that it happened.
Amen to that. All right, Murray, well, listen, talking here with Murray Douglas of Friendships. You can find out more information about this new camp, a medical facility they're opening up in Gaza. You can go to Friendships, plural, friendships.org. Get more information, find out more about the Seahawks. If you're 18 to 25, think about training for that and also how to make a donation. All right, Murray Douglas, thank you very much for being with us, and God bless you and the work you're doing there in Gaza.
Thank you very much, Brian. It's been a pleasure being on your show again.
Thank you. All right.
Brian, it's one thing, the plural in friendships is very important. I think if you put it singular, it takes you to a dating site. So remember to put the S in there.
All right. Yeah. So we're talking here about ships. Yeah, friendships. All right. Very good. Fantastic ministry. All right. Go to friendships.org to get more information. Talking about a little bit ago about whether the American people would vote for socialists. Bernie is an unapologetic socialist. He describes himself in that way. He doesn't want you to know that what the word socialist means is the government takes over everything. He wants you to think this is just a minor little expansion, like putting a little mother-in-law wing on your house. It's a government takeover of healthcare. And it's not going to do any better than Obamacare did at lowering costs and enabling you to keep your doctor. And Gallup talked to the American people about this. Only 45% of the American people said that they would be willing to vote for a nominee from their own party who was well qualified, but who happened to be a socialist. 45% said they would. 53% said not on your life. All right, let's grab some more sound bites from the New Hampshire. And again, Joe Biden, he's done. He is completely flamed out. Joe Biden is history. He doesn't know it yet. He's saying we've just started. He's done. Elizabeth Warren is probably done. She was in single digits yesterday. You had three candidates that were over 20%. That was Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg, and then Amy Klobuchar. Everybody else was in single digits. So there was the top tier of three, then this huge gap. Everybody else down in single digit. Michael Bennet dropped out. Andrew Yang, that a lot of people like. I thought he was a curious guy, but he's dropped out, so the field is shrinking by the day. All right, so we talked about the fact that a lot of people in the elite media are gathering behind Michael Bloomberg, who has been tagged by a lot of other media outlets as just an outright racist because the stop and frisk policy, it impacted African-American youths more than anybody else. But the people who lived in those neighborhoods, they appreciated it. Didn't have to worry about getting mugged, going to the convenience store on the corner for toothpaste. Now, speaking of Joe Biden, let's look at clip number 6, Rob, if we can. This is Joe Biden. Remember, he left. Where was the second primary? Where was that?
South Carolina.
Oh yeah.
No,
but he left New Hampshire. He boogied out of town. Things were looking so bad that he just left town. He split and headed out to South Carolina. He thinks that is his firewall because his support is so strong in the African American community. It's been cut in half in the last week or two. His support among the African American community has dropped from like 52% to 27%, but Joe is hanging in there. Clip number 6.
I want y'all to think of a number. 99.9%. That's the percentage of African American voters who have not yet had a chance to vote in America. One more number. 99.8. That's the percent of Latino voters who haven't had a chance to vote. So when you hear all these pundits and experts, cable TV talkers talked about the race, tell them, it ain't over, man. We're just getting started.
Joe, I hate to break it to you, but, man, it is way over. Nothing over like Christmas and a Joe Biden campaign in February. All right, let's go to clip number 7. Chris Matthews, one of our favorite commentators, because this guy just blows his stack just about every time he gets revved up about something. He's talking here to Brian Williams of NBC News. This is on the big network. And how frustrated he is with what's happening with the Democrat campaign. They got nobody. It's a bunch of JVers down there. Now you got them pundits saying, look, they got nobody that's keeping Donald Trump up at night at all. So here's what Chris Matthews said, clip 7.
I'm a little frustrated because I don't know what it was a victory. A win's a win, as you say at the New York Giants, New York football Giants. They just want to be secure in their own economy and their own lives and see their kids once in a while. If that's the case, Trump is going to be tough to beat. Trump is going to be tough to beat. So they're all realizing, everybody that's talking about this, man, this is an uphill slog. Have any prayer, any ghost of a chance with Trump. We don't have anybody that we think can get it done. Now here's Terry McAuliffe, clip 8. He's the former governor of Virginia, which has lurched way to the left. They want to take away people's guns. They want to murder children after they're born and resting comfortably in a blanket. That's what Governor Northam said. A baby survives abortion. We're going to wrap it up in a blanket. We're going to make it comfortable, and then we're going to let the parents kill it if that's what they want to do. That is Virginia. Anyway, Terry McAuliffe is concerned about what's going to happen in the Democratic primary.
If it goes long, let me be very clear. It is going to be a fight for the Democrat. It is going to be a fight right up to the end, tearing each other apart right up through July, which is not good for our party.
All right, so he said it's going to be a circular firing squad between now and the convention. You know, and 538 said the chances are getting better every day that's going to be a brokered convention. Nobody's going to go into the Democrat convention with enough delegates lined up to be able to take the thing. It's going to be brokered. Well, that's how they took out Bernie Sanders in 2016 with the superdelegates and all that. That's going to be an absolute nightmare for the Democratic Party. Now, here's Mark Meadows, and here we're shifting gears a little bit. He was talking about Donald Trump relieving Lieutenant Colonel Vindman from his role in the White House. This was the guy that tried to sandbag Donald Trump at the House impeachment hearing. Showed up in his full dress uniform, which he never wears. He never wears that to work. He never wears it to the White House. He just wore it when he wanted to sabotage his own commander-in-chief. His commander-in-chief that he has a legal, constitutional, ethical, and moral obligation to take directives from and to obey them. Didn't do it. So Trump finally had it up to here, cashiered him. And here's what Mark Meadows said. This is what Mark Meadows saying, look, clip 9, this is an amazing thing about the Donald Trump campaign, the Donald Trump presidency. Let's listen.
This is not about getting even. This is about having a team around you that's willing to support your agenda. Listen, this is the only president who can run on his accomplishments in the first 3 years and still run against his own administration, because part of his administration is trying to defeat the Trump agenda. And so it's important that you have a team. And can you imagine what this president could have accomplished if everyone, they were in the boat rowing the same way, but we've got people that are trying to turn the canoes over, trying to turn the boats over, and they're within the West Wing. It's not even just in parts of D.C. It's actually at 1600 Pennsylvania.
So this is just the beginning.
You know, it's just kind of amazing that Trump has been able to have the success he's had. You know, the whistleblower, Eric Ciaramella, he was in the White House. He moved back over to the CIA, but he was in the White House when he started doing his whistlebloviator thing. And Lieutenant Colonel Vindman was in the White House. His brother was in the White House. His brother likely is the one that leaked the details from John Bolton's new book. They had offices right across the hallway from each other. So this is what Donald Trump has had to contend with, saboteurs inside his own White House. All right, one last soundbite, clip number 10. This is Muslim activist Linda Sarsour, and she has got a complaint. She says there's something that Muslims must never do, and here's what it is.
But in my opinion, on an issue like Palestine, you got to choose the side of the oppressed. And if you're on the side of the oppressor, or you're defending the oppressor, or you're actually trying to humanize the oppressor, then that's a problem, sisters and brothers, and we got to be able to say that is not the position of the Muslim American community.
We must not humanize, Linda Sarsour says, we must not humanize the Jewish people. We must not think of them as human beings. We must instead think of them as the Quran says they are, as apes and pigs. Cannot grant them status as human beings. Right. Well, that is it for today. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, to bow low before God, stand tall before man, stand in the gap where God has placed you, and never forget, ladies and gentlemen, with God's help, we are fighting a winnable war. God bless you. See you back here tomorrow.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are not necessarily reflected